All right, now that the 2025 NFL draft has concluded, Brad Holmes does his annual speak to the media, not just after the draft, of course, but he joins 97.1 and they ask him questions. Shout out to Jim and John, Costa and Jansen. What they did is they talked to Brad Holmes, got to speak to him about the draft and get his mind and just where he was coming from, get his mindset on a lot of these draft picks, the trades, Isaac Teslaa, they asked him about. And then Jim, which I love, asked him about not drafting an edge, but really trying to understand where the fans are coming from with wanting a true DN2 alongside Aiden Hutchinson. And I have thoughts on that question, but let's get to the first one. So they asked him about Isaac Teslaa, and this quote to me is significant because Brad said, quote, I can say that he was my favorite wide receiver in this draft. I'm not saying he was the best wide receiver in the class, but favorite wide receiver, yes. And, whether or not I have a problem with the trade up or not, it's okay, disregard that. Brad got his guy. Okay. That's the big takeaway. He's 6'4, 220, runs a fast 40. He has crazy hands. I don't think he had a single drop this year. Might not even have a drop at Arkansas. So the player is intriguing. I really like Isaac Teslaa. And he made a good point talking to Jim and John when he said that, especially in this draft and last draft, the big narrative around these two drafts was it's not that deep. So if you want to move capital up to go get a player you really like, then so be it. It's fair. Now, he traded future capital to go get Isaac Teslaa, and he even mentioned that he thought about giving up a 2. So am I a fan of that? No, not really. But what I can tell you is this. If Isaac Teslaa becomes an excellent player or a really good player, then no one's really going to care what you gave up for him. It only matters if it doesn't work out, which is the unfortunate reality of every GM that makes trades. It's just how it goes. If a player pans out, no one cares. If he doesn't, then you look back and say, well, he gave up a lot to get him. Kind of like the Broderick Martin trade, which again, Brad's going to have misses. I'm not even bringing that up to dunk on Brad. It happens. All great GMs have misses. They're human. Howie Roseman drafted Jalen Reagor in the first round. Look how that turned out. And then had to go trade for A.J. Brown to correct his mistake. And then drafted Devontae Smith also. So it happens, guys. And that was in the first round. Brad traded up in the third to get Broderick. It didn't work out. It's fine. He traded up to get Isaac Teslaa. You're going to find out if it was fine or not. So the fact that he loves Isaac, though, is intriguing to me because Isaac can do a lot of things that are intriguing to me and probably to John Morton and Dan Campbell in this offense. He brings a different skill set than what they already have. So I am intrigued by Isaac Teslaa. Again, not a fan of the trade up. But again, if he turns out to be a really good player, none of this matters anyway. He also talked about the trades, which I do want to show you that quote because he kind of went into it. So let me put this on screen for you guys. So he talked about that. He said there were 2 trades that were done at about 30 attempts. That just happened to be the 2 that we were able to do. I thought about trading a future 2. Now, I don't know if the 2 was involved in the Isaac Teslaa deal because he also admitted in the post-draft press conference when he was speaking to the media that he tried to trade up for an edge too. So he was trying to get his guy. He didn't want to just reach for any guy, but his guy. So I think Brad being aggressive is something, it's just in his DNA. He does it every single draft, and he goes and gets his guys. And for really throughout his tenure, it's worked out more than it hasn't. So I think he's kind of earned the faith. Although you can comment, share your opinion, which I think people forget sometimes that you're allowed to have an opinion. You don't have to like the trade. You don't. You don't even really have to like some of the players. But the reality is, for Brad Holmes, being he is excellent at what he does, you at least have to earn. You should have trust in him to make the right decision. So we'll see how the Isaac Teslaa thing ages. But the thing that I didn't really like, guys, if I'm being completely honest, is really the response to Jim's question when he asked Brad about the edge position. And again, I'm not going to sit here and bitch and moan about not getting an edge in the draft, or at least early. They got Ahmed, because that's not what I'm going to do. Because ultimately, if Marcus Davenport doesn't work out, it's going to be on Brad anyway. So it's pointless to keep talking about it because we're going to find out at the end of the year if this Davenport as DN2 thing works out, or they bring back Za'Darius, which I would love and would help tremendously. But having stability at that edge spot, I'm not I'm not going to tell Brad to force his hand and draft a player he's not high on. But like the Isaac Teslaa pick, a lot of edges went after him. That's going to be something people look back on and say, well, Josiah Stewart turned out to be a really good player. Why didn't you take him? But that comes with the job, right? So he understands that just as well as we do. But he asked him about the edge spot, and he basically asked him, like, you do understand kind of where the fan base is coming from, right? With this whole edge 2 thing, trying to find the answer to the other side of Hutch, trying to get more production. And this is what he had to say about that. Let me pull this up. I'll pull it up so you guys can see it. Let me make sure I can get this up. But basically, his response to that, he went into why the fan base, it sounds like, at least from his perspective, he says, I have felt like ever since we have acquired Aiden Hutchinson, and it's felt like the fan base is always mad. They're mad because we have Hutch, because he's so good. Why don't we have 2 of them? And I'll say this, if he's referring to the people who actually thought the Lions had a chance to get Trey Hendrickson, or even myself before the Myles Garrett stuff happened, I didn't know if a deal would be demanded before he was traded. Obviously, he got his money. I thought there's a chance he'd play with 2 years left. Whatever, call me an idiot. But if he's talking about those conversations, I understand it. But the deflection away from the obvious conversation, which is a very fair conversation to me, is what year are we in now? Year 4, year 5? We're still having a conversation about DN2. And I think when you say, well, everyone just wants another Hutch, that's dismissing the conversation. Like, I don't know about you guys. I don't expect another Hutch to walk in the door. It's insanely unrealistic, And he even asked Jim and John about that. It's like, well, how many elite edges are there in the league? I get it. I'm not saying to get another elite edge. I don't think I shouldn't say I don't think anyone, because there are people that are probably stupid, but I don't think anyone with a brain would be on that side of things. Say, oh, well, go get Myles Garrett and sign him to an extension. Like, I went down that road. It was dumb. I understand that. But now that we're in April 29th, I think we can all be on the same page and agree it's unrealistic to get any of these players, right? We can just dismiss that, get over that. But having faith in Marcus Davenport to go out this year and stay healthy and be very productive is just not realistic based on his career, right? We have evidence to suggest Marcus Davenport will not be healthy. So when Jim's asking a question like this, I think it's very fair to ask Brad, like, hey, you understand where it's not even about drafting an edge, right? It's just about really the last couple of years. It's like we're now going into a Super Bowl year and we're still wondering, do we have any stability on the other side of Hutch? At least someone that can be a constant contributor. I mean, Za'Darius is so beloved in this city for a freaking reason. Why do you think people want Za'Darius Smith back? Because he brings stability and he brings production to that DN2 spot. That is why people want him back, right? Including myself, including a lot of fans. So when Brad answers the question, it's like, dude, no one's doubting you're great at what you do, but you have to understand where the fan base is coming from. Like, when you're asked about edge and he's constantly asked about it, he gets frustrated. But to me, it's a fair question. It's a very fair question. When you have a great team, your team doesn't have a lot of holes, right? The Lions don't really have that many holes. The only really hole they have is DN2. That is it, because Davenport, it just can't stay healthy. So what questions do you think the media is going to ask you? DN2. Because what are they going to ask? Your offensive line? I mean, your offensive line is one of the best in the league. Your wide receiver room? You have great wide receivers. Like, you know what I mean? There's not too many positions you're picking apart. It's DN2. So I get Brad gets frustrated because he constantly gets asked it, but rightfully so, dude. I mean, you're a contender and you have Davenport starting. He wouldn't start on pretty much any other contending team. He wouldn't. And if he did, there would be backup there, just in case. That's the worry amongst the fan base. And I think what Jim asked was very fair. I think Brad, I think in his mind, he understands where the fan base is coming from, but I think it comes off like people are questioning what he's doing or his job, or you're calling him a bad GM. It's none of that. It's just a fair question. It's like, hey, Brad, as fans, I just don't think fans are comfortable going into the season with Marcus Davenport, right? Fair. That's why Za'Darius Smith should be signed, hopefully in the next couple of months. So that's the only thing that it was like, no one wants another Aiden. Like, no one wants another Aiden. Aiden's one of the best in the league. It's unrealistic. It is. Especially you got to pay everyone. I get it. All right. We're not going down this road again. It's over. Okay. I'm an idiot for even suggesting Myles Garrett. It's over. But can we just look at the obvious point, right? I mean, let me know where you guys are coming from with this. Comment down below. A lot of the quotes here that came out from the interview, but that one specifically just stuck with me. I think it's a very fair conversation. I do. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. And tune into our live show tonight, 8 to 10 p.m. We'll talk more about it and other things as well. But I think it's a good conversation to have. Again, no one's doubting Brad Holmes is great. Okay, let's just get that out the way before the Brad bots start attacking, right? No one's saying he's not a great GM, but this is the one thing you can bring up, right? Everyone has something. And some people don't allow other people to have conversations that I think are fair. It's like, no, you're not allowed to talk about that. It's like, yeah, they are, because it's fair. Whatever. I'll see you guys tonight. Until then, peace. Hey, what's going on there? It's Jeff Iafrate. Appreciate you for finishing the video. You can check out one of the videos here suggested or show support by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And buy your merchandise, officialctsports.com.